I'd now like to introduce you to a family who utilized 2 Ronald McDonald House sites after a horrific accident injuring all 4 of their children. Dave and Stacy Schlief had their 4 beautiful children injured in a school van semi-truck accident last March in their home in Danvers, Minnesota. 2 of them, Savannah and Harley, were transferred to Minneapolis, where they were hospitalized in critical condition. While the 2 youngest were treated in hospitals locally, it's a story we want to share.
Dave and Stacy were sleeping bedside until they came to the Ronald McDonald House to stay during their children's long road to recovery. The family called the Ronald McDonald House on Oak Street home for 10 weeks, beginning in mid-March and ending in June. They also utilized the Ronald McDonald House site inside Gillette's Children's Specialty Healthcare in St. Paul, where Savannah underwent rehab. Please help me welcome the Schlief family to the stage.
Wow, this is such an honor to be here tonight. When I got the call from Jill saying that our family was picked as the featured family, I started to cry. There were so many other families, and they picked ours. On March 12th, 2018, when I sent our 4 kids off to school, I didn't realize that our lives were going to change in a matter of hours. I never dreamed that afternoon I would get a call saying my 4 kids and 3 other students were in an accident. Their school van driver didn't stop at the yield sign and hit a semi. Excuse me. Our 2 youngest, Blade and Natasha, were able to be cared for in the Benson Hospital near our home, but Harley and Savannah's injuries required extensive care. Savannah was placed in a medically induced coma before she was airlifted from Benson, and Harley was airlifted from the Appleton Hospital. Both girls were airlifted to HCMC. It was one of the longest drives of our lives, getting to them as soon as possible. During the accident, Blade was thrown from the van. He slid down the tar road, causing severe road rash on the right side of his face, chest, and arms. He also had to have 14 staples in the back of his head. Natasha was also thrown from the van. She had some cuts in her head, but the injuries did not require any stitches, and she basically walked away with bumps and bruises and a sprained toe. Harley and Savannah were both thrown in the back of the van, and they had to be cut out by the Benson Fire Department. Harley got 22 stitches in her right arm, had 8 fractured ribs, her neck and back were broken, and she was in the PICU for 11 days. Unfortunately, Savannah had it the worst out of all 7 children in the van. The right side of her head was smashed when the back of the van swung around and hit the semi. When we got to the hospital that night, I saw our little girl laying there in bed with a tube down her throat and tubes coming from everywhere from her body. I wanted to die. No parent wants to see their child laying there lifeless, not knowing if they're going to make it in the next few hours. Savannah's brain started to swell, and there was bleeding. The doctors came and told us that she had a stroke. Savannah had emergency surgery to remove the right side of her skull. During those 11 days, the doctors told us that she would never talk and walk again because of the extent of her brain damage. In the next breath, they told us to plan on being down here for 6 months. But I told them, "You don't know my Savannah. She's a fighter." On the 3rd day of us being at the hospital at HCMC, I got an email from a teacher back home saying that she had contacted someone at the Ronald McDonald House, and they had a room for us waiting. All we had to do was go there and tell them who we were. When we got to the Ronald McDonald House, I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't slept for days, and I still was wearing my work clothes from that Monday because I wouldn't leave Savannah's side. We were greeted by the most wonderful staff, including Shannon, the house director. She told us how the house worked while we filled out paperwork and got a tour. We were excited to hear that the Ronald McDonald House had its own school. This meant that Harley, Natasha, Blade could stay with us because there was no way I was leaving Savannah. Our family could stay together. Then back home, an amazing lady named Lynn Geyer started asking for donations for the Ronald McDonald House. The first delivery Lynn brought was a Suburban packed full of food, soaps, and paper products. Then Lynn packed the trailer, and our amazing community and surrounding communities came together and packed an enclosed trailer. I was so amazed how one person in a community could get people on board to donate all that they did. Lynn is here with us tonight. Let's all thank Lynn. On March 22nd, Savannah woke up, and Dave and I were in a meeting, and the nurse came running into the room and told us that she was awake. We both went running. She looked up at me with this big smile and says, "Mama, hi." I was like, "Thank you, God." Savannah was in the hospital for 3 months. It would have been shorter, but on Easter morning, Savannah was not responding. She had bacterial meningitis and had to have a second brain surgery so they could do a brain washout and remove damaged brain tissue. We had been at HCMC for 2 months. On April 17th, she moved over to Gillette Children's Rehab for a month. That hospital had another Ronald McDonald House that I was able to use, and I ate a few meals there. Also during this time, I wouldn't leave Savannah's side, which meant I couldn't be with my other 3 kids. Thankfully, the staff at the house stepped up and they were there for them. They became our family. If we didn't have the Ronald McDonald House, I don't know what we'd have done. Our family would have been split up. The Ronald McDonald House made our 3 months so much easier. We were able to stay together, and we didn't have to worry about expenses we couldn't afford. Savannah had her 3rd brain surgery to replace her damaged skull on May 30th. We stayed for the weekend and made sure she was okay, and the kids finished up the school that year, for the year, at the Ronald McDonald House. On June 5th, we said goodbye so we could go home and start our new life. So thank you for letting me share our story. Tonight, you have the opportunity to make the difference in the lives of families like ours that called Ronald McDonald House home. Sometimes for a year, a month, a day, even just a meal. Thanks for your generosity and compassion. And now, I would like to invite the current and former Ronald McDonald House families to join us on stage.
When you feel empty, feel helpless, all alone. When you upset, separated. Don't forget, you are not alone. You are not alone. You are not alone. You are not alone. When you feel pathetic, feel rejected and torn, when you feel lonely, feel ugly to the core, when you feel upset, isolated, don't forget, you are not alone. You are not alone. You are not alone.
There's someone else out there.
You are not
There's someone else out
We all have these struggles that weaken our souls. Love will find you, you just need to know you are not alone. You are not alone. You are not alone.
There's someone else out there.
You are not alone.
There's someone else out there.
You are not alone.
There's someone else out there.
You are not alone.
There's someone else out there.
You are not
There's someone else out there.
You are not
There's someone else out there.
You are not alone. You are not alone. You are not alone. You are not
Before she walks off the stage, can we put our hands together one more time for Kat Perkins for being with us tonight? Kat, blessings to you for sharing your talents with us.
Thank you.
And all of the families that are on the stage, can we also put our hands together for the Schlief family for having the courage to share their story with us? Thank you. They are from my home community in West Central Minnesota. We are thinking and are with you.